Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're stepping right into a pretty fascinating thought experiment. I want you to imagine a hypothetical room where four of history's absolute greatest philosophical minds have been gathered around a single table. Their task? To unpack the ultimate question about our future with artificial intelligence and this incredibly rapid acceleration of technology we're all seeing.
So let's just dive right into it. This is the massive question sitting squarely at the center of the technological revolution we're living through. Do we count in the abundance era? It's literally the question keeping policymakers up at night. And honestly, it's in the back of the mind of every single worker who watches AI capabilities double every few months.
To answer it, we're pulling from source material that sets up this dynamic, extremely high-stakes summit between Immanuel Kant, Friedrich Hayek, Karl Marx, and Friedrich Nietzsche. Now, these thinkers obviously never agreed on much when they were alive, and they certainly don't agree here. But they are the exact voices who provide the foundational language we need to actually understand our current reality. They strip away all the tech jargon and force us to look straight at the human core of the issue.
Section 1. The Abundance Era Question. Defining the terms of our new reality.
We really have to start by asking what exactly we mean when we casually throw around the word abundance. We hear it all the time, right? Tech CEOs are constantly telling us AI is bringing about an era of unparalleled abundance. But is it? Immanuel Kant kicks off our roundtable by unbendingly arguing that we have to define our terms. He says if this so-called abundance is just a world of extraordinary productivity, where the financial and societal gains only flow selectively to a tiny handful of people or companies, well, that's not true abundance. It is simply a surplus with a really good branding problem.
But Hayek steps in and immediately pushes back. He points straight to the data. He notes that we currently have more goods, more services, and more access than literally any previous generation in human history. I mean, AI is actively lowering the cost of things that used to be reserved entirely for the privileged. Think personalized healthcare, legal advice, tutoring, high-end creative tools. For Hayek, living standards definitively rise when compounding innovation makes these exact services cheaper for everyone. The data, in his view, is completely unambiguous.
Section 2. Measuring floor and ceiling. The economic reality of AI displacement.
This sets up a brilliant, totally impartial clash between two vastly different ways of measuring reality. On one side, you've got Hayek focusing on the absolute improvement of the economic floor. He argues that a poor person today has access to way more information and tools than a middle-class person did even 50 years ago. But on the other side, you have Marx's critique. Marx says, sure, the floor might be rising, but the ceiling is rising infinitely faster. And that growing, unspoken distance between the floor and a rapidly rising ceiling, yeah, that's the number that never seems to make it into a tech company's quarterly report.
Marx sharply points out a pretty brutal reality about our modern system. Access to cheaper AI-generated goods does not replace the actual income people need to survive. Income is how we eat, it's how we participate, it's how we exist within society. You just cannot hand a displaced worker a cheaper software subscription or a cheaper consumer good and call it dignity.
Section 3. The Ownership Architecture. Who pays for the transition?
So the absolutely crucial point here is this. When we talk about the quote-unquote growing pains of an AI transition, everyday people are essentially being asked to fund this transition with their lives. We're talking about people with mortgages, kids in school, and maybe, if they're lucky, 3 months of savings. Meanwhile, the people actually making the decisions to automate those jobs, they have absolutely no skin in the game. The decision makers will never be displaced by the very tools they're building.
To really unpack this architecture of ownership, Marx challenges us to ask 4 critical questions about AI development. Whose interests are encoded in its deployment, whose labor actually trained the models, whose data fed it, and whose future is it really being built to serve? The source material notes that right now, the answer to all 4 of those questions is a very small, highly concentrated group of people, and notably, it's a group that doesn't include us. If just a handful of funds own the companies that own the machines, redistribution suddenly becomes an issue of basic math, not justice.
Section 4. Who holds the power? The illusion of the policy debate.
Now, right about here in the source material, Nietzsche steps in to just completely cut through the economic theory. He boldly declares that the people deciding the terms of this AI transition are the exact same people profiting from it. So what does that actually mean for us? It means the question of whether you and I count isn't even really being debated. That question has already been decided by the people holding the power.
Nietzsche casts a deeply cynical, though you might argue highly realistic, eye on current events. He views all these highly publicized AI safety summits,
the global conferences, the parliamentary debates, as mere performances of concern. They aren't actual debates about human dignity or fair transitions. According to his framework, their true goal is just to delay accountability long enough for the power structures and the tech to become way too deeply entrenched for the public to ever challenge.
Adding to this, Kant quietly drops what might be the most revealing detail of the entire conversation. Just think for a second about who is actually invited to these global AI summits. He observes that you cannot design a just transition when the voices of ordinary affected people are completely absent from the design process. The very absence of everyday workers from these elite rooms is, in and of itself, the answer to whether we count, because if you aren't in the room, the answer is already decided for you.
Section 5. Making worth non-negotiable. Changing the calculus of power.
Okay, so how do we actually fix this? If the debate is an illusion and power just writes the ledger, how do we make sure human dignity isn't left in the dust as technology accelerates? Well, surprisingly, Hayek, the staunch defender of free markets and innovation, actually agrees with Marx's diagnosis here. He insists that while the engine of innovation is absolutely vital and has to be defended, a market that operates merely as a subsidy for the already powerful is totally indefensible. You simply cannot have a system that permanently privatizes the immense financial gains of AI for a few tech giants, while permanently socializing the devastating costs of job displacement onto the general public. By refusing to let each other off the hook, these four brilliant thinkers leave us with the synthesis of four simultaneous truths that we really have to hold on to. First, human worth is unconditional and has to be structurally enforced. It can't just be some charitable gift from tech billionaires. Second, the engine of innovation is real, and we absolutely do need it. Third, ownership is the ultimate question we have to keep asking loudly and specifically. And finally, meaning and purpose must be rebuilt from the things the market simply cannot touch, optimize, or automate away.
To move us from philosophy into reality, to make counting structural rather than just some aspirational hope, the source material outlines 3 concrete architectural policy shifts. Step 1, implement a public dividend on AI productivity gains. Step 2, enforce worker equity stakes in automated systems, meaning workers actually own a piece of the machine that's replacing them. And Step 3, mandate representation of displaced workers in the actual rooms where transition policy is designed. This isn't charity, folks. This is a fundamental change in the architecture of our society.
The final realization of this explainer is that truth isn't about picking just one thinker's side over the others. Reality is wide enough to hold all of these perspectives at once. We count exactly as much as we insist on counting. No system is going to automatically value us unless we apply immense pressure from the outside, forcing the cost of ignoring human dignity to be much higher than the cost of acknowledging it.
Which leaves us with this final, genuinely provocative thought. The tech is coming, the abundance is possible, but the distribution, that is entirely up for grabs. The question was actually never whether we count. The real question is, what are we willing to do to make it true? Thanks so much for joining me for the explainer today, and I really hope this gives you a powerful new lens to view the future of work, AI, and our collective place within it.